Before I get started, I want to say that I'm here on a mission. I am trying to spread the word about telomere biology as much as I can. Still, I'm surprised that 90% of everybody I talk to have never heard of a telomere. And I think telomeres are the most significant discovery in medical research ever. All right? And still, as the world's still just trying to catch on to what's going on. So I want to start off with a slide. We all know that 65 is the new 45. And these people have what appears to be a very successful anti-aging protocol. And this is everybody's perception of what successful anti-aging is. But when I turn 65, I have an entirely different vision of what I want to be when I'm 65. And that's that. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be talking about. That's what my research is all about. And I really believe that this is possible. And I've believed it for a long, long, long time. But it's only in the last 2 years that we've had our best proof of concept that this is not science fiction. This is real. And what I want to do is I want to spend about 3 minutes just let you watch a news report from Diane Sawyer where she talks about some researchers at Harvard University using telomere lengthening technology. They've successfully reversed aging in mice. They've turned old mice into young mice.
And now, eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosomes, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding. But the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you could see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size. As for humans, while it is just one factor, scientists now say by looking at our blood cells and measuring those telomeres, you can get a better idea of how well you'll age. The longer the telomere, the better the chances for a more graceful aging.
So this is very exciting stuff being done by very, very reputable scientists. And I'm really excited. And you know what? This experiment suggested that we might actually reverse Alzheimer's. It's these mice, they couldn't remember how to go through a maze when they got old, but suddenly they could remember again, suggesting that maybe Alzheimer's isn't the loss of memory as much as it's the loss of access to memory. And so this is really exciting. I think Alzheimer's is a disease worse than death, and it'd be great if we could find some way to actually do something about it. These mice also had, when they got old, they couldn't sexually reproduce anymore. When they were restored to young mice, they were breeding more mice again. It was successful reproduction. So a lot of great things happen with reversing aging here. So the question comes now, do we have to age? The scientists all over the world that have been following up on my research have been showing that practically every disease you've ever heard of is associated with telomere shortening. Not only do we have the potential of possibly reversing aging, we have a potential possibility of reversing everything and decreasing the chances of people getting practically every disease. So I don't call it aging anymore, I call it telomere shortening disease. Bad things happen when telomeres get short. It's my message to everybody. There's nothing wrong with a long telomere, but there's all kinds of problems with short telomeres. So let's focus on this word telomere. To describe what a telomere is, we need to zoom in on a human being. And when we zoom in, we find that a human is made up of 100 trillion cells. And most of the theories on why we age say that we age because our cells age. So if we could find a way to prevent the aging of our cells, that would probably prevent the aging of us, ourselves. Let's zoom in even further. Inside every cell is a nucleus. And if we zoom in on the nucleus, we find that the nucleus contains chromosomes. Chromosomes are where your genes are. They give you some of us blonde hair, some of us black hair, make some of us tall, make some of us short. A chromosome is like a long shoelace, okay? But the shoelace is like a string of beads. And the beads are called bases. So a typical chromosome is about 100 million bases in length. Long, long string of beads. The telomeres are the very tips of this chromosome, shown here in yellow. Excuse me. And the telomeres are only about 15,000 bases in length, at least when we're first conceived. But when our cells divide, our telomeres shorten. And therein lies the problem. Every time our cells divide, our telomeres get a little bit shorter. And it's because of the lack of the ability of our cells to duplicate the very tips of the chromosome. So every time a new chromosome is made, it is shorter. When a cell divides, the new cells have to have all the same contents of the original cells. So everything has to be duplicated in the cell before the cell can divide. And when the chromosome divides, the chromosome ends up being a little bit shorter. Okay, so when we're conceived, it's 15,000 bases. The cells start dividing. When we're born, the telomeres have shortened down to 10,000 bases. Then as our cells start to divide even further and we grow up, our telomeres continue to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And when they get down to 5,000 bases, our cells lose the ability to function, and that's when we typically die of old age. And there's absolutely nothing we can do about this. Telomeres shorten at about 50 to 100 bases a year in the healthiest of people. No matter how healthy you are, you can't get it to shorten slower than 50 to 100 bases a year. There are things you can do to accelerate the shortening. Okay? Smoking, obesity, stress, all these things can cause the generation of free radicals and inflammation, which are known to cause accelerated telomere shortening. But we can do things about those. We can quit smoking, we can lose weight, we can meditate to reduce stress. All these things have been shown to be successful ways of actually decreasing the rate of telomere shortening. But I was awarded second place for discovering a way to prevent the telomere shortening. And that's through the discovery of this enzyme telomerase, which my team at Geron Corporation discovered in the mid-1990s. What this shows, the green squiggle line here is a DNA molecule, shown as a double helix. And telomerase is that factory-looking thing that binds to the very tip of the chromosome, and what it does is it lengthens the telomeres. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of telomere shortening as a ticking of a clock. Okay, so we got a clock. Every time a cell divides, the clock ticks once. Divides again, it ticks again. Divides again, it ticks again. So that's what's happening in our cells. It's a very accurate timepiece of aging. Now in our reproductive cells, the only cells that this enzyme is found in, the cells divide, the clock ticks, the telomerase pushes it back. One of the reasons why I call it telomere shortening disease is because telomere shortening has now been shown to be the cause of a lot of different things. Okay? Cancer, for example. Well, now we know that short telomeres cause cancer. And so when telomeres get short, think of that shoelace that I was talking about. When the caps of your shoelaces get short, your shoelaces fall apart, when your telomeres get short, your chromosomes start falling apart. They start having chromosome rearrangements and mutations. I can actually look in the microscope at cancer cells and I can see the rearrangements that have occurred. And these rearrangements are what cause the cancer. They cause changes in the gene expression patterns resulting in cancer. And when telomeres get short in your immune cells, you have a decreased risk of ability to fight the cancer if you already have it. And so cancer is something that is very much caused by short telomeres. Something else is cardiovascular disease. We've done a lot of work looking at cells lining plaques and stuff like that, and we find that these cells called endothelial cells have short telomeres. AIDS. When a person gets infected with the AIDS virus, they don't usually realize it at first. It takes years before it starts showing up. That's because what the AIDS virus does is it causes accelerated telomere shortening of the immune cells. Same is true for Alzheimer's. People with Alzheimer's have been shown to have short telomeres in their immune cells, their astrocyte cells, cells in the brain called Schwann cells. These are things that are going to be really important. If we can increase the length of those telomeres in those cells, there's a chance, based on the mouse data, that we could actually reverse Alzheimer's. Osteoporosis, same thing. There's hundreds and hundreds of diseases. In fact, I'm not aware of a single disease anymore that hasn't been shown to be affected by telomere length. Skin care. Wrinkles, age spots, all of that's been shown to be caused by short telomeres. Pets. I mean, a lot of us here have dogs, cats, horses. All those animals have been shown to age by telomere shortening. And then, as we already said, aging in general is going to be something that we can control by keeping telomeres long. So the next question is, we said that telomerase is found in our reproductive cells. What happens if we produce telomerase in all of our cells? So we're in Reno, Nevada. We're searching for telomerase inducers that stop or reverse telomere shortening in humans, and therefore stop and reverse aging. One of the best things that happened during this research, I've been around for 15 years, but in the last 3 years, I've been collaborating with John Anderson. We're working together, we're looking for natural products that will turn on the telomerase gene in all our cells. And I will tell you right now, when I first met John Anderson, I thought it couldn't be done. I thought it had to be a synthetic chemical, it had to be a pharmaceutical drug, because I thought there's no way a plant extract would ever have anything potent enough to reverse aging. It turns out you can't just eat a plant. It also depends on how you process the plant, how you prepare it, how you do the extractions. There's a lot of things that have to happen in order to make anything work in a plant. And John Anderson is the world's expert at doing that. So there's never been more energy anywhere on this planet than when John Anderson and I started working together on this project. And we have made major, major progress. I want you to remember that telomerase is a gene, and I was saying that genes are on chromosomes. This gray bar is an example of one of the chromosomes. Just like the genes that make our hair color and our eye color, telomerase is produced by a gene in our cells. Okay, so next to every gene is a regulatory element. This is like an on-off switch, just like the light switches on the wall over there. You can turn it off and it'll turn the gene off. You can turn it on and it'll turn the gene on. In every other cell of our body, there's a protein that binds to that regulatory element and shuts it off. And that protein is called a repressor. So what John Anderson and I are trying to do is we're looking for natural products that will get inside our cells, bind to that repressor, and dislodge it, and allow the telomerase gene to turn on and lengthen our telomeres. So it's like a dimmer switch. Instead of just a switch, we find that some things will turn on telomerase just a little, some things will turn it on a lot. And we are continually testing more and more plant extracts, looking for things that turn it on more and more and more. We've found about 15 different plant extracts, when added to human cells in a petri dish, will cause the production of telomerase. And all of those get mixed together in product B. And that's what product B is. And product B keeps getting better and better. It's all about the telomeres. Everything about us is about telomeres. not just aging. Everything about our health is about telomeres. And Isagenix knows that. Every product that Isagenix has is connected to telomeres, not just product B. Like I was mentioning that obesity causes accelerated telomere shortening. I don't know a better product than the Isagenix cleanse for helping you lose weight. And then combine that with the isolene shake. Yeah, the isolene shake, you have the most nutritionally dense food on the planet, which will help you keep the weight off while you're trying to cleanse and lose weight with the cleanse. These are really good things to help you lose weight, which will help you reduce your rate of telomere shortening.